Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 429. Thank you for joining me today. Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a good weekend. We're just going to pick up where we left off in the last podcast. I have a great podcast for you guys today. I really want to try to get to my Substack article that I told you guys about 2 podcasts ago in this podcast. So I want to get to this stuff. And the clip that I want to start with is a clip that I just added to the podcast at the last minute. So I don't know, that I'm going to be able to get to everything, but I'm going to try. So the clip that I want to start with is not this clip, but we're going to play this clip to give you some context. This is Bill Maher again. He started his show again. He's off of vacation. And, when he was on vacation, we played the clip of him being interviewed by Hot Carl on ABC. And him saying that his vote is up for grabs, that in 2028, if it's J.D. Vance and a communist, I don't know who he named, any of the communists, he says his vote's up for grabs. And I told you that, that a large part of his beef with the insurgency in the Democratic Party, the rise of the Democratic Socialists that are winning elections, knocking off incumbents. His real issue is that they're anti-Israel. That goes to me. I'm sure that he has other issues. Well, I don't know after what I'm getting ready to say, but I know that the Israel issue, the fact that this movement is anti-Israel and pro-Palestine is dear to his heart. So anyway, he comes back. This is his first show he did on Friday, and his new rules is dedicated to this rise of communism. And he calls it communism, and he's absolutely right. This rise of communism in the Democratic Party. And these people were so surprised, like it came out of nowhere. But this clip just gives you context for the next clip that I want to share. This is his new rules that he does at the end of his show. We're not going to play it all, but you'll get the gist after a few minutes of it. Take a listen.
And finally, new rule: Donald Trump has told 1 trillion lies, but when he says the Democratic Socialists of America are actually communist, that's not one of them. And it's not hard to prove it just by quoting the DSA and
communists.
Their candidates. It gives me no pleasure to have to do this. I'd much rather keep going the good vibes from my summer vacation. I had an awesome one, by the way. I totally got a girlfriend at Bible camp. However, right before we left, Vice President J.D. Vance was on the show, and I told him that if the Democratic Party keeps going in the direction of the DSA, my vote was in play. And all I heard all vacation was, "Oh my God, you're a Republican now." No, that's not what I said. I said in play. And here's why. Because not a week goes by where I don't read about some newly chosen, exciting new face in the Democratic Party. And then when that face opens its mouth, the Communist Manifesto or some other crazy shit comes out.
They're communists. And then he goes on, another 8 minutes of this monologue, proving the fact that these people are communists. They're communists. But the clip that I want to play is in response to this. Bill Maher is an absolute clown, and Steven Crowder makes an absolute clown out of him because he says that, Bill Maher, you created this, what's going on in the Democratic Party. You supported this. You supported and defended Barack Obama, the smooth criminal, and you supported him and called anyone who was a racist, called anyone who criticized Obama and his policies, his Marxist policies and his inch towards socialism. You called anyone who criticized him as a racist. Listen to what Steven Crowder says here about Bill Maher. I just found this. I had to show this to you guys.
Right, Bill Maher? Here you go.
They sit across the aisle from a small group of religious lunatics, flat earthers, and Civil War reenactors who mostly communicate by AM radio and call themselves the Republicans, and who actually worry that Obama is a socialist. Socialist? He's not even a liberal.
Now, it somehow became an article of faith on the right that Obama is the most extreme president in American history. Although when they say that, I think what they really mean is he's black. So just admit it. This isn't about what Obama is. It's about what you need him to be, because hating him is what gets you up in the morning. I think this is a test to see if the Republicans will come out against water.
I got my water.
That's not water, that's socialism juice.
That's right.
What if Tea Party? What happened? What was the origin of the Tea Party 5 years ago? It wasn't about...
He's arguing with Bill Kristol about the rise of the Tea Party and what was motivating the rise of the Tea Party. Bill Kristol gets it right. It was TARP, the Troubled Asset Relief Bill to bail out the banks after the mortgage crisis. That's what launched had nothing to do with Obama. It actually, Tea Party started under the Bush administration. But listen to what Bill Maher says.
That's right.
What if Tea Party? What happened? What was the origin of the Tea Party 5 years ago? It wasn't about bailouts.
Sure it was.
It was not. It was about a mortgage bill, and then it was about Obamacare.
Well,
it was about the stimulus.
That's the same thing. So Bill Maher is saying, sure, it was about the bailout. And he says it was about the mortgage fraud, which led to the bailout. So Bill Kristol's, they're both clowns.
Sure it was.
It was not. It was about a mortgage bill, and then it was about Obamacare.
Well, it was about
the stimulus.
It was about a black president.
First of all, he's had to deal
with a black president. The Tea Party was about a black president. Listen to Bill Maher here.
with things that no other president's ever had to deal with.
And Obama, this is again, going back to the clip that we played of Colin Kaepernick in the last podcast. Colin Kaepernick at the end of Obama's second term, and when Obama's getting ready to fade, well, he didn't fade out because the guy still hasn't gone anywhere. He's still very active in politics to this day, 10 years later. But when Obama was leaving office, Colin Kaepernick says, well, the change hadn't come. He didn't have the ability to bring the change. Bill Maher is saying here, he had to face things that no other president had to face. Listen to this. This is the way Obama, even not actively doing anything, divided the country. It was done through surrogacy. Surrogates like Bill Maher accusing people of being racist just for criticizing Obama's policies. That if you're criticizing his policies, you have to be doing it because you're racist. That's the whole purpose of Obama. Not anything that he was doing actively, the way that he allowed his surrogates to use his race, and he's biracial, by the way. He's not black. He's more white than he is black, quite frankly. But he allowed his surrogates to divide the country and use his race as a reason that you can't criticize him. You can't say that he's socialist. You can't say that any of his policies are bad because you can't criticize the black president, because if you do, the only reason you're criticizing him because you're black. That's what Bill Maher is getting at here. And Steven Crowder brilliantly, I'm not going to play any more of this because I don't really have time, but he brilliantly shows the hypocrisy of Bill Maher to now say, oh my God, the socialists are taking over, when you were there creating it. You were there defending it. You wouldn't let anyone criticize the socialism when the black man, the smooth criminal, was doing it. Clown show. This guy's a clown.
Bill, and then it was about Obamacare.
Well, it was about
the stimulus.
It was about a black president.
First of all, he's had to deal with things that no other president's ever had to deal with.
Listen to the crowd. Whoa, he had to deal with it. He had to deal with things that no president has to deal with. Woo.
I know the Tea Party hates hearing that they're racist because 99.999% of them are white, and the president who drives them insane is black. It's just a coincidence.
And it was done through surrogacy, man. You got to understand that when we talk about Obama dividing America, it's not, he did a lot to divide America, but the real dividing of America was done through his surrogates in the media, doing what Bill Maher is doing right here.
Never had to deal with. It's true. Yeah. I know the Tea Party hates hearing that they're racist because 99.999% of them are white, and the president who drives them insane is black. It's just a coincidence.
And we know what the Republicans are going to be running on: socialism. You can't vote for Democrats because they're socialists, and socialism is a work camp in Siberia. And one thing Republicans are really good at is they get in a room together, they come up with a line of bullshit,
And they all repeat it over and over and over. And
he was calling it bullshit. He was saying that the threat of socialism in 2018, just 6 years ago, things have changed a lot for Bill Maher. Things have changed a lot in 8 years for Bill Maher. Let's listen. God, we got to listen to this again. We got to listen to this again. It's so good. It's so good. No, let's listen to this. Let's listen to some more of this.
Again, let's just read the quotes. The DSA platform says you work as much as you are able and no more than needed. If that was any closer to Karl Marx's dictum, from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs, they'd be sued for plagiarism. Not to leave any doubt, New York Mayor Mondani once tweeted Karl Marx's words exactly. They're not trying to hide it.
No, not trying to hide it.
Their most popular influencer, Hassan Piker, thinks communism is so groovy. He laments the fall of the two of the most murderous regimes in history, the Soviet Union and Chairman Mao's China.
Yeah, he did.
Mondani's aide, his top aide, Sia Weaver, said if you don't believe in the government's sacred right to seize property...
It was just 6 years ago you were saying
know what
this.
the Republicans are going to be running on? Socialism. You can't vote for Democrats because they're socialists, and socialism is a work camp in Siberia. And one thing Republicans are really good at is they get in a room together, they come up with a line of bullshit, and they all repeat it over and over and over until even Tommy Lahren can do it.
Wow. So let me ask you. Wow. Good job, Steven Crowder. Good job taking down this idiot. Good job. Because, yes, this guy was part of the surrogates, Obama surrogates, that used race to divide this nation, used him and the fact that he happened to be a biracial president, taking us in a radical direction, but you couldn't criticize that because he is a black man. This guy was the primary one defending Smooth Criminal. And we're going to listen to G. Edward Griffin here again, that he says this, said this in the 1950s, that in the 1920s, that the communists, looking at the United States and how strong and prosperous the United States was, that how do you take down this giant, this hegemon, global hegemon? How do you take it down? And he says that as early as the 1920s, 1928, 1929, he says here, communists saw that the racial divisions in this country, the racial conflict, that was a conflict that they could prod at and exploit to create the conflict to bring down the nation, is what Jerry Griffin says.
As early as 1928, the communists declared that the racial differences among our people constituted the weakest and most vulnerable point in our social fabric. By constantly probing and straining at this one spot, they calculated that eventually the cloth could be torn apart and that Americans could be divided, weakened, and perhaps even set against each other in open combat. We mustn't kid ourselves into thinking that the communists have placed their agitators only into the black communities. They're working both sides of the street.
Yep. They have their agitators working both sides of the street. They have their agitators out undermining the United States. There's black communists, there's white communists, there's Asian communists, like the woman running for governor in Wisconsin. There's a whole lot of communists. Rich communists, there's poor communists. And this is the threat of our time. This is a crisis. This is a crisis that we identified, the sixth crisis, the rise of communism. But the racial tribalism, the fifth crisis here that we have in this country, this is being used. All of these are being used to bring in the communist new world order, the totalitarian state that these people want. And Obama, being chief among them, he was defended by people like Bill Maher and others. If you criticize any of his policies, that the only reason you're criticizing his policies is because he's black and you're racist if you're white. But the problem they're having now is a bunch of black people are saying that about them. And it's hard to accuse people like me who voted for Obama and is black and are making the same criticisms that the Tea Party and white people were making about Obama during his presidency. It's hard to criticize us of being racist. And that's a huge problem. The Democratic Party is having a huge problem right now, bleeding black voters. This guy's video, he came out with, and it went viral over the weekend, talking about this new George Floyd, the Carmelo, not Carmelo. Carmelo is the one before Nolan Wells. We didn't even get into Carmelo, which we probably will. I have some clips about Carmelo Anthony, the case of the black kid stabbing the white kid in North Dallas area of Texas. But Nolan Wells is who they are kneeling on his grave and using him for politics. He's the new guy that they're using. And this has been a strategy even before George Floyd, but I mean, it's most evident. You can see the strategy that happened in 2020. All this stuff coming out about Dr. Fauci. I mean, it is hilarious this weekend watching RFK grill Dana Bash. If you haven't seen that on CNN, telling her how CNN was working to scare the people, to work up people's fears, to make them more malleable. That's what happens when you're afraid. You're more malleable. You'll agree to things that you would never agree to if you weren't, riddled with fear. And RFK tells Dana Bash that was CNN's job. That's what you guys were doing. But then they start talking about these lockdowns, and I was thinking to myself, we really weren't in a lockdown. They call them lockdowns. I mean, you weren't able to go to church. You weren't able to open your business. You weren't able to go to the gym. You couldn't go to the beach. But if you wanted to go to the BLM riot, you're more than welcome to go to the BLM riot. Only certain things were locked down. It was all a scam. It was all a scam, people. If you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you. But this guy can see very clearly what's going on with Nolan Wells. And I want to play this video and talk about this. Take a listen.
At one point in time, you have to entertain the idea that Ben Crump is indeed a grifter. How many times can he get in front of the camera and have a news conference and have no new information? No reason to be in front of the camera. It makes sense. You're promoting the story. You want to get the story out there. You go on Good Morning America. But then you go to New York and promote Al Sharpton and National Action Network, even though the body is having an autopsy in D.C. Then you go to Mississippi and meet with the DA just to have a conversation. No new information comes out there, but you have another press conference right after that meeting. Then you get the results from the autopsy. The autopsy just shows that, hey, we don't know what happened still, so you don't need to have a press conference for that, but you have one anyway. But you have it in Chicago at the NAACP conference, and you have a big backdrop of their organization promoting them. Now you turn around and you have another press conference today. There's no new information, but now you're in Nashville promoting the National Urban League and their organization. Let's just be honest about what just happened. Ben Crump has been flying this family around from state to state, promoting every single civil rights organization by having a press conference with no new information and the backdrop of the organization in the background. Let's just be real. This family is being passed around so that everybody can promote their organization.
The only thing that this guy left out, the only thing that he left out in the truth that he's spitting in this video is how the organizations, these different organizations, civil rights organizations, the National Action Committee, Al Sharpton, connected to the Democratic Party, the NAACP, connected to the Democratic Party, the National Urban League, connected to the Democratic Party. I've already shown you how these groups are connected to the Democratic Party. This is all a political play, and that's the only thing he leaves out. Yes, that this family is being flown around to these different civil rights organizations to rile up the people to get more attention to this matter without any facts, without any new evidence, like the guy said. But this is all to motivate people and to create this racial division. This woman, Nolan Wells' mother, was asked about this, something, I don't even know what the question is because you couldn't really hear what the reporters were saying. I hate when they do that. I mean, if you're going to ask, have the reporters ask questions, have microphones so you can hear the question as well. But I don't know what the question is, but listen to the answer that Nolan Wells' mother gives here at the National Urban League.
My message would be that we have to have tough conversations. This is something our community already knows.
Our community. What community is she in? Our community. What community is she talking about? She's Filipino. Her mom's Filipino. I believe that her father is not even full black, maybe even half black. It's what I've read, but who cares? I mean, she's Filipino. Her community was the community that she lives in. She's a nurse practitioner. That means that she went to school for a long time. She's got basically the same job as doctors. She's a very intelligent woman. Most Asians are. And most Asians, are really focused on their education. One of the, highest earning, highest educated population. She's Asian. She's Filipino. She's a nurse practitioner, so she made really good money. Her community was the community she lived in. What community did you live in? That's your community. But what is she talking about here? Listen.
My message would be that we have to have tough conversations. This is something our community already knows. We have to make sure that, and I know my husband and I, we have had countless conversations with all of our children about the importance of understanding when you are moving in different spaces.
When you are moving in different spaces. What's she talking about? What's she talking about? Early on, she spoke in the same meeting at the Urban League early on. She said, my son loved everybody. My son was friends with everybody. That's what she said. My sons moved in different spaces all the time. So if you had talks with your son about moving in different spaces, he wasn't listening to you because he was moving in different spaces. And he had friends of different races, as he should. As he should. There's no reason why he shouldn't. But why are you now pushing this racial division with Ben Crump by your side at the National Urban League with the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus right behind you, flanked behind you, and you're pushing this racial division? This is about politics, people. You can't see this, people. You can't see this is about politics.
My message would be that we have to have tough conversations. This is something our community already knows. We have to make sure that, and I know my husband and I, we have had countless conversations with all of our children about the importance of understanding when you are moving in different spaces with people that do not look like you. And it's unfortunate that we have to have these conversations.
I mean, honestly, I don't even want to say that, man. I don't want to even say that because it's the truth. If your son was hanging out with majority black friends and moving in spaces of black communities, he would be in a lot more danger. And the statistics show that, people. They show that moving in spaces around people of color, that your son would have been in more danger. I'm sorry. That's just what the statistics show. I mean, that's the facts. What is she talking about here? Anyway. Yeah. So Nolan Wells is, the new George Floyd. We're going to see how long they can keep this grift going, but this is a strategy for them. It's not a strategy that is new for them. They were using it in 2020. They can probably think of other scenarios where this is the Democrat strategy. And it's divide and conquer. That's what it's about. They have to divide us. And the real problem right now that the Democrats are having is that they're bleeding black voters, not only black men, but namely black men. And you can see that it all started under Smooth Criminal. That 98% of black voters voted for Smooth Criminal in 2008. They all came out to vote. They were all excited to vote for Smooth Criminal because he was going to bring the change. The hope and change is what he said. But after he did not bring the hope and change and people started to see who he is, you can see from 2012, it goes down from 98% to 94%. In 2016, Hillary Clinton only got 90%. And then in 2020, Joe Biden only got 85%. And then Kamala Harris got 75%. And if this is a trend, I have it right here, blown up a little bit. This is black men only, but they're also bleeding black women. They're bleeding black voters. This is what the problem is. And this is a trend. This goes from 2012 down from 2008, from 2016, 2020, and then 2024, 79%. That means that this trend continues, that in 2028, whoever the Republican or Democrat nominee is, that he's going to get less than 79% of black men. The Democratic Party can't survive. The Democratic Party can't survive. Then this is young black men, but black men in total is here. So this is even more pronounced amongst young black men. And as you can see, the age here is 18 to 29. That's what this is. And this all comes from the Catalyst data. Democrats, they have this data. James Clownburn, he has this data. All their strategists, they have this data. They know that they're bleeding black men. They know that they're bleeding black voters. So that's what all this racial division is about, and using Nolan Wells as the new George Floyd to get black voters. They need to encourage black voters that haven't turned out and didn't turn out. And they need to stop the bleeding of those that are leaving the Democratic Party, either not voting or voting for Trump. That's what James Clownburn said. A lot of black voters voting for Trump. A lot of black people supporting Trump.
A lot of black people.
A lot of black people supporting Trump.
Out here supporting Trump. I do know that.
A lot of black people out here supporting Trump.
A lot of black people who out here supporting Trump.
Yeah, they have this data, and they have their own data. They have their own internal data. They know that they're bleeding black voters. Jasmine Crockett was at the National Urban League meeting with a bunch of other Democrats. This is a Democrat meeting, National Urban League meeting, and she says the same thing in her talk at the National Urban League. Take a listen.
Just this morning, a young black woman was telling me that her dad, a black man who was like, I can't vote for Kamala. He was like, if I go vote, it's going to be for Trump. And she asked him, I know, right? And I said, did he vote? She was like, I don't know, I don't want to ask. But nevertheless, one of the things that she said was, my dad said he could trust Trump. And I was like, really? And so the reality is that that's not the first time I've had that conversation.
No, that's not the first time you had that conversation. No, it's not the first time you had that conversation, Jasmine, because there's a lot of black people
who out here supporting Trump.
So no, that's not the first time that you've had that conversation. I don't know why that's my that keeps beeping. What is that? What is that keeps beeping? All right, guys. I had to turn off my notifications, but we're back. We're going to pick up here with Angela Rye. And Angela Rye, if you don't know who she is, she does this podcast on iHeart called Native Land Podcast. Andrew Gillum used to be on this podcast with her, but since he ran into some legal troubles because of his methamphetamine usage, she's been doing the podcast with Bakari Sellers, who is another black commentator. It's geared towards black voters and pushing Democrat politics. I believe she used to work for the Congressional Black Caucus, but she's talking on this podcast. This went viral over the last 24 hours. She's talking on this podcast about South Carolina and the Democratic Party moving the first primary in 2028, which is going to start actually in a few months, the primary season, the campaigning is going to start after the election in November. You're going to see tons of people putting their hat in the ring. This is probably going to be a huge number of people running for president, particularly on the Democrat side. But they moved South Carolina to be the first state because South Carolina has a large number of black Democrat voters. Now, this isn't a state that Democrats have a chance of winning in 2008, winning the electoral votes from South Carolina. I mean, in that regard, they didn't have a chance of winning Iowa either. Despite the fact that they had polling that Kamala Harris was going to win Iowa prior to 2024, Democrats aren't winning Iowa, but they're not winning South Carolina. A lot of people are saying that doesn't make sense to move the primary. Why are they moving the primary to South Carolina? Well, because in 2020, and you have this rise of the DSA and the Socialists and the Marxists, insurgency in their party. In 2020, in Iowa was the first primary. Bernie Sanders got the popular vote. There was this controversy between Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg in Iowa. But then after Iowa, Bernie Sanders ended up getting, he got the most votes in Iowa, and then he ended up winning the primary in New Hampshire and in Nevada. And those were the first three primaries. And then, so that's why Barack Obama had to quickly get on the phone, tell Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, all these people to drop out to clear the way for Joe Biden in South Carolina. Now they're just going to move the first primary to South Carolina so they can try to head off these socialists from South Carolina from getting a head start in the primary. And I want you to listen to what Angela Ray says here. And then this is going to take us into my article, and I'm going to explain what's going on here and why the black vote is so important to Democrats. It's everything. It's their lifeblood. Black voters and black strategists like Angela Rye understand this. I mean, the Democratic Party understands this, but I'm going to explain to you why this is what this is about.
We should be first because we are your foundation. There is no Democratic Party without black political thought, ideology, innovation.
There's no Democratic Party without black thought and innovation. Without black people, there's no Democratic Party. She's absolutely right. There's no Democratic Party without black people. I'm going to explain why.
There is no Democratic Party without black political thought, ideology, innovation. We should absolutely set the tone. You don't get to tell us that now we're not going to matter because we're not no tiebreaker.
Well, I think the other piece of it, too, is that I feel like black progressives have been erased in this whole conversation because what the progressive white progressives are sort of saying is, well, South Carolina is the home of establishment black moderates like Clyburn. Oh, gee. But I also think that we've erased the existence of black progressives. Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign was Jesse Jackson's 1988 campaign.
Right.
It was the same platform.
Yeah.
And 84, right? So Jesse Jackson was Bernie before Bernie. And so progressivism actually was seated in the black community. Pro-Palestinian sentiment was seated in
South Carolina, by the way, Joy.
Of South Carolina.
Greenville, South Carolina. Yeah.
Hello.
So Democrats aren't going to win South Carolina. Identity politics is a poison to this people. It's a poison to the Democratic Party. I've shown you that Kamala Harris shouldn't have even been the running mate with Joe Biden, but they forced Kamala Harris on the ticket because Joe Biden had committed to running with the woman. And they said it has to be a black woman. They forced, particularly after Joe Biden came out with the "You Ain't Black" with Charlemagne. They feigned like, oh, we're so upset. You have to pick a black woman now. And they forced Joe Biden to pick a black woman. That's why Kamala Harris, I've done podcasts, I've explained that. But identity politics is poison to these people because, I mean, black people only make up 12. We're getting ready to get into my article here in a moment. It's 12% of the population. And they're making demands. This is what they do in the Democratic Party. They're demanding, no, we're first. We are the backbone of the party, which is true. You can't win without us, which is true. So we call the shots and everybody else, all the other Democrats have to follow us. You have to pick the candidates we want. We want Kamala Harris on the ticket. If you don't put Kamala Harris on the ticket, we're going to stay home. In Texas right now, they're telling Tallarico, if you don't get on your knees and do what we say, then we're going to stay home and we're going to give it to Paxson in Texas. These are the demands. So where do they get the courage to make these demands? Like I said, that they're telling you that you can't win without us, and they're absolutely right. You can't win without them, without black voters. Black voters are the heart and soul of the Democratic Party. It's true. This is James Clownburn again, and he was with Roland Martin on his show, and I don't know if this is the annual fish fry that Clyburn does that they were at some event, and they're talking about South Carolina and the DNC moving South Carolina to be the first primary. And take a listen to what Clownburn is saying here.
Let's now talk about South Carolina staying number one in the cycle. It was a battle. Many other states, Iowa desperately wanted to reclaim their spot. New Hampshire was fighting for it. Nevada was fighting for it. But how does South Carolina prevail to stay first in the nation when the Democrats vote in 2028?
Well, I think that the Rules Committee looked at what the playing field was. There were 6 states that they were going to select, and they were drawing from a lot of states that made the run. Now, South Carolina had traditionally been in the so-called pre-primary window, but until the last cycle, we had been right around 3rd and 4th. And, of course, this time, they decided to broaden the field, bring in 6 states, and then once they looked at what 6 states would be, then they looked at the 6 states to decide how they should be ranked, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, through 6th, and decided that because of the demographics of South Carolina and because of the record that South Carolina produced in vetting candidates, that South Carolina...
The record that South Carolina produced in vetting candidates. You guys gave us Joe Biden. How you feel about that? South Carolina?
The demographics of South Carolina. And because of the record that South Carolina produced in vetting candidates, that South Carolina made the most sense to go first. It will be followed by Nevada and I believe New Hampshire. And then those 3, and then they'll go to Michigan, Virginia, and New Mexico.
So understand what the Democratic Party is saying. They're saying that black voters are going to set the tone. And that's what Angela Rye and the bald-headed African woman, Joy Reid, they're saying here is that we deserve to set the tone. We deserve to set the course for the Democratic Party. And the belief is that that black voters are going to reject the Marxists, which I don't believe that that's necessarily true. Like I've told you, there's plenty of black Marxists, plenty. But that's what James Clownburn is saying here.
So it was an interesting battle because what you had is you had a lot of white progressives,
right.
white all. Why are we doing this? We have no shot at winning that in the general election. So why should we go there? Many African Americans said, "Wait a minute, huge black voting block there in South Carolina. Sure. Black folks are the base of the Democratic Party." And the thing that what I said was,
as you heard Roland just said there, black voters are the base of the Democratic Party. Black voters are the base of the Democratic Party. 59% total turnout in 2024, 12.1% of the total population. This is the base of the Democratic Party. Why does the Democratic Party have to cater to black voters so much? Why does Democratic voters have to stop the bleeding and the defection of black voters from the Democratic Party? And why does it hurt the Democratic Party so much for black voters to defect from the Democratic Party? That's what my article gets into. We're going to get ready to get into that in just
white all. Why are we doing this? We have no shot at winning that in the general election. So why should we go there? Many African Americans said, "Wait a minute, huge black voting block there in South Carolina. Sure. Black folks are the base of the Democratic Party." And the thing that what I said was, by South Carolina going first, many of our interests are going to be on the table first, and those candidates have to be able to answer those issues. And yeah, I know before it was like you go to Iowa, you go to New Hampshire, then South Carolina, but now they're going to have to deal with that up front.
Absolutely, and they should. The fact of the matter is, you want to win in November. That is the big thing, win the presidency. So you ought to put the people on the field who demonstrate that they can appeal to all those corners that make up this party. The African-American vote is very important to the Democratic Party. And so why would you have them in an also-ran position? They ought to be in the mix early on because even if you don't know, when you get to South Carolina, after the results come in, you might find out what it is that you don't know. And you might find out how to improve that which you know a little of.
It was also amazing.
So what Clownburn says there is the black vote is very, very important to the Democrats. It's their lifeblood. It's their backbone, like you keep hearing them say. And I'm going to explain to you why this article I wrote in August of 2023. This is just as we're heading into the 2024 election year. And the title of the article is Niggas for Trump 2024. How much of the black vote does Trump need to win? How much is it? How much are we talking about here when we're talking about the defection of black voters away from the Democratic Party, those runaway slaves leaving the Democratic plantation? How many slaves need to run away? What are we talking about here? Now, in the modern era of modern politics, understand that political strategists on both sides, Democrat political strategists and Republican political strategists, they know where the votes are. They know exactly which precincts they need to get out the vote, down to the exact zip codes and neighborhoods. They know exactly where the votes are, who's going to vote, who's going to get it out, where they need to get out the vote. They know all of this is a science these days. You have to understand that before we get into this article. Niggas for Trump. Now, the title, again, the reason that I titled this article, Niggas for Trump, yes, it's a crude article, but crude title. But the reason that I gave it that title is because of this gentleman's shirt. This was when in Georgia, in Atlanta, after Fani Willis had indicted Donald Trump and he had to turn himself in. And this is the first mug shot and the charges that they put on him in Atlanta. This black gentleman showed up there in Atlanta, Georgia, with a T-shirt that said "Niggas for Trump." This is why I named my article "Niggas for Trump." But this is even though the title of the article is silly, this is a very serious article and explains what's going on here in detail, the politics of why the black vote is so important to Democratic Party and why they're doing everything, even staging, this stuff about Nolan Wells and in using him as why is this so important? What this is all about. According to the 2020 census, black Americans make up 12.1% of the United States population, down from 12.6% in the 2010 census. Why I emphasize that in the first sentence is because people talk about the black population being 13%, and they use this number. The black population hasn't been 13% in a long time. You've been aborting babies en masse, not having families. When people talk about the great replacement, it's not only white people being replaced, you people are being replaced too. You dummies. 12.1% was the percentage of black Americans in the 2020 census, down from 12.6% in the 2010 census. This may seem insignificant in terms of political power, but the black American vote has been the most important voting bloc in every presidential election of the modern era. Black voters have enormous political power. And as a voting bloc, the black vote has the power to pick the president of the United States every 4 years Black voters have the power to decide the fate of an incumbent running for re-election and the power to make a challenger president and change the course of the country. No constituency in America has more power than the black vote. You may be wondering, how does 12% of the population have so much political power? The answer lies in where that 12% is located in the country. The vast majority of that 12% is centered in the urban areas of the most important swing states. To understand how this came to be and the political impact it has on the United States today, you must understand the Great Migration. The Great Migration was a movement of approximately 6 million black people out of the South during Reconstruction and Jim Crow over a period of 60 years from 1915 to 1970 to the 1970s. If you have never heard of the Great Migration, it is no surprise. Isabel Wilkerson, who wrote the award-winning book on the Great Migration called The Warmth of Other Suns, and Isabel Wilkerson is not the only, she not only wrote the book about the Great Migration, she coined the term the Great Migration. It's, just, if you haven't read this book, you don't know anything about this book, it's just, fantastic work is what Isabel Wilkerson does in this book, The Warmth of Other Suns, the Great Migration. One of the reasons few people, this is what Isabel Wilkerson said in her book, The Warmth of Other Suns. So this says Isabel Wilkerson, who wrote the award-winning book on the Great Migration called The Warmth of Other Suns, refers to it as the biggest underreported story of the 20th century. One reason so few people know about the Great Migration is because it happened over 6 decades. If 6 million people all at once migrate to another location, it is going to register. But when 6 million people migrate separately over 6 decades, it can go unnoticed, especially when they are staying within the borders of a nation. Several factors were driving the migration. For some, it was the black codes and Jim Crow, the outright dehumanization and frequent lynchings of black people in the South. For others, it was the opportunities for jobs in a factory in the North instead of struggling as sharecroppers to feed their families in the South. Many reasons motivated many people to pack up and to say goodbye to their friends and to their and the only homes that they had ever known. Wilkerson writes in The Warmth of Other Suns. No one knows who was the first to leave. It was sometime in the middle no one knows who was first to leave. It was sometime in the middle of World War I. The North faced a labor shortage, and after centuries of indifferences, cast its glaze at last on the servant class of the South. The North needed workers, and the workers needed escape. No one knows exactly when or how it commenced or who took the first actual step of what would become the Great Migration. If you haven't figured out yet and are asking, where did all of these people go when they left the South? The answer to that question brings us back to the question of why 12% of the population has so much political power today. As I've already told you, they went to the large urban areas of today's most important swing states. Wilkerson identified 3 routes these migrants took. And depending on which area of the South they left, she could predict the area of the United States where they ended up. People from Louisiana and Texas ended up in South Central Los Angeles, Oakland, and even as far north as Seattle. People from Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas, and Virginia went to Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Those people from Arkansas, Alabama, and Mississippi went to work in factories in the Midwest and ended up in cities like Cleveland, Akron, Cincinnati, Detroit, Chicago, Milwaukee, and as far north as the Twin Cities of Minnesota. This is why the black vote is so important and why black voters as a voting bloc have so much political power. You don't win Pennsylvania without turning out large numbers of black voters in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. You don't win Michigan without the black vote in Detroit. You can't win Wisconsin without turning out herds of black voters in Milwaukee. These are the states that decide who becomes president, and the elections are determined by how much of the black vote turns out for the Democratic Party nominee. If Democrats have high turnout of black voters, they will win. If they do not have high black voter turnout, they will lose. It's just math, people. It's just math, and they understand this math. They have the data. Clyburn has the data. Crockett, they have the data. The Democratic strategists, they know that this is not sustainable, that the Democratic Party cannot survive this, that they know that. This is what this is all about. Democrats are confident that if they can just motivate black people to show up and vote, that they will vote for the Democratic candidate. They don't even need to tell the black voters. This is what it used to be like, that they don't even need to tell you who to vote for. If they can just get you to the polls, they know you're going to vote for Democrats. It is conceivable that black voters would vote for Republicans. This is why Joe Biden famously said, if you having trouble figuring out if you're for me or if you're for Trump, then you ain't black. That's why Joe Biden said that. Democrats spend little time explaining why black voters should turn out for them and focus more on voter registration, voter drives, and voter turnout on Election Day. It's not about why you should vote for us. For Democrats, it's just get them to the polls, as many as we can herd, and they will vote for us. They take the black vote as a given. However, if black voters did start voting for Republican candidates, how much of the black vote would the Republican candidate need to win the presidential election? The answer is not much. Not much, people. The data is there. The answer is not much. Republicans don't need much. When you see this cycle that has taken place, this trend that has taken place since the smooth criminal. Not much. After Donald Trump's recent indictment and arrest in Georgia, many people have been discussing the potential of Donald Trump to win enough black voters to get reelected. Fox News put out a poll showing Trump could win 20% of the black vote. Others have speculated 50%. All of these discussions were sparked by numerous videos that went viral on social media after Trump's arrest. It was black faces, one after another, in support of Donald Trump. One black Trump supporter went viral with his commentary on what he called the two-tier justice system, but it was the T-shirt he wore that likely made him go viral. It read, "Niggers for Trump." Other black people in Atlanta lined the streets of Trump's motorcade when he left Fulton County jail. They were cheering for him. One of them is heard chanting, "Free Trump." These demonstrations have people asking, how much more of the black vote would Trump need to win in 24? I emphasize the word more because Trump has already done better with black voters than any other Republican in the past 50 years. Black Americans have been voting for Democrats in large numbers since FDR. In the wake of the Great Recession and the New Deal, in the wake of the Great Depression, the New Deal used the power of the government to create programs and assistance for poor and needy. There were many Americans struggling at this time, but black Americans were at the very bottom of the cast. Those who could vote started voting for FDR, like most Americans. However, it wasn't until 1964 that Democrats started getting practically all of the black vote. In 1964, LBJ received 94% of the black vote. This was in the middle of the civil rights and voting rights movement, 5 months after. And I always talk about the fact that LBJ won that election, a year after JFK had been assassinated. But I don't think that's what I talk about here. Anyway, it says, in 1964, LBJ received 94% of the black vote. This was in the middle of the civil rights and voting rights movements. And 5 months before the 1964 election, LBJ signed the 1964 Civil Rights Act. It was rumored that he said, in regards to him signing that law, I'll have those niggers voting Democrat for the next 200 years. If he did say this, he only needs another 140 years to be proven right. So far, he is batting 1,000. Johnson wasn't opposed to using the word nigger. He was a Southern Democrat from Texas. His grandfather was a Confederate soldier and may have been a member of the Klan. Johnson was in Congress for many years prior to becoming vice president and then president. He opposed civil rights for blacks when he was in Congress. However, Johnson was a shrewd politician. He could see that the tide was turning. Many historians attribute Johnson winning such an overwhelming amount of black vote in 1964 to his support for the Civil Rights Act and signing the Civil Rights Act. I personally believe this is where I say Kennedy. I personally believe that it had more to do with John F. Kennedy being killed a year prior. That's why I mean, yes. And who JFK was running against, that mattered as well. But the country was still in shock over John F. Kennedy a year later, John F. Kennedy being assassinated just a year before. I thought I turned off my notifications. What the hell is that? Anyway, and the love of the black community had for Kennedy. The black community loved Kennedy. Kennedy was considered to many blacks the great white hope. So he was assassinated the year before. That also contributed to LBJ getting such a high percent of the black vote in 1964, a year after Kennedy's assassination. He was Kennedy's vice president. Just made sense. After the 1964, after 1964 election, LBJ held the record for the most black vote received by a candidate for president until 2008, when smooth criminal Barack Obama received 95 to 98%. Although Obama received 93% when he won re-election in 2012. And this just depends. This is all exit polling. And Hillary Clinton lost with 89% in 2016. Joe Biden received, this is all I'm telling you, this is the trend that from the, and again, this all comes from exit polling, so some of these numbers are different. Regardless, notice the trend. Democrats are incrementally losing. I said this in 1993. I mean, in 2023. Regardless, notice the trend. Democrats are incrementally losing black vote by several percentage points in every presidential election since Obama's big win in 2008, down from 95% to 87%. And if the trend continues, Biden should get 86% or less of the black vote in 2024. Biden didn't run in 2024, but Kamala Harris, who ran in his place, got 75%. What did I say here? That if the trend continues, that Joe Biden would get below 86%, and Kamala Harris got 9 points below 86%, 75%. If the trend continues, Biden should get 86%, below 86% or less of the black vote in 2024. 75% is what Kamala Harris got, or 78% is what Kamala Harris got. If that happens, he loses, and Kamala Harris lost. Again, I wrote this in 2023. If that happens, that Joe Biden gets below 86% and Kamala Harris got 78%. If that happens, Biden loses fairly without getting above 90% of the black vote in 2024. He loses even if those black voters don't vote for Trump. But these black voters don't even have to vote. The fact that they're bleeding black voters, those that are voting for Trump is even worse, because them not voting for Democrats hurts Democrats, and them voting for Trump and not just staying at home even hurts Democrats more, because they're not only are they not voting for Democrats, they're turning around and voting for Trump. This is something that can't happen. The Democratic Party cannot survive this. Biden needs the black vote. Trump doesn't need it. Trump just needs them not to vote for Biden or Kamala Harris or whoever the Democratic. Trump doesn't need, or whoever the Republican nominee is, they don't need the black vote. They just need those black voters not to vote for the Democratic Party nominee. If a black American doesn't vote for Biden or Harris, it is essentially a vote for Trump. So with that understanding, how many more black votes does Trump need, or J.D. Vance in 2028 need, to actually vote for him to win the 2024 election or the 2028 election? Again, not much. Not much, people. It's already at the point where the Democratic Party can't survive this. This is why they're pulling all the racial stuff. This is why you're seeing them, kneel on the grave of Nolan Wells and push this racial division. Trump got 8% when he won in 2016. He followed that up by 12% in 2020, 4% more. While Democrats are trending down, Trump is trending up with black voters. Trump should have easily won the 2020 election with 12% of the black vote, essentially considering that he got more than 11 million votes, over 11 million more votes overall. Something is very fishy about Biden's win in 2020, is what I wrote. Biden got more votes than Obama as big win in 2008 with 8% less black vote. Think about that, people. When you're talking about 2020 and something being very fishy about 2020, Biden got 8% less black vote than Obama got in 2008, but he got more overall vote than Obama in 2008. Put that together. They tell us that Biden won because he outperformed with black voters. This is what they tell us, that the reason Joe Biden won is because black voters. This is what they tell you. That this is what they said, is that the people that showed up to the Capitol on January 6th, that they were being racist because they were going against black voters, and that black vote. Joe Biden got 8% less black voters than he got less black voters than Hillary Clinton, and he's got 8% less than Obama in 2008. But they're telling you that black voters put Biden over the hump. None of that makes sense. They tell us that Biden won because he outperformed with black voters in 2020. And you're a racist if you question that. I'm almost done. Last paragraph, and we're out of here. Trump doesn't need 50% of the black vote to defeat Joe Biden next year. He doesn't need 25%. If Trump can win 3% more of black voters in 2024, which would give him 15%, it's a wrap for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the Democrats. It's a wrap for them. They understand this. They have this data. Even if they stuffed the ballot box, 15% of the black vote would be enough to overcome it. Just 3% more could significantly turn the election in Trump's favor, and this is very achievable. Most black Americans are keenly aware that the Democratic Party has done nothing for them, and there has never been a greater opportunity for Republicans to win black voters. And they know this. They know this. This is what it's all about, people. They're bleeding, and they have been bleeding. This has been a trend that's been going on since 2012. And they're going to divide this nation amongst racial lines. They're going to use surrogacy to divide this nation. We're in very trying times, people. We're in crisis. We'll pick this back up on Friday, and I'll see you guys on Friday.